Dear students, welcome to the course Science of Consciousness in Ancient India. This is lecture 5. Today we are going to discuss a bigger and much clear classification of IKS, because till now I have explained you the 6 possible modes of classification of the Shastra: Shruti, Smriti, Agam, Nigam, then Kavya, next one Shruti, Smriti and Kavya, third one. Fourth one, just recap. Fourth one, Prabhu Samhit, Kanta Samhit, Suhet Samhit, then Parushe, Aparushe, then last one, Drishta, Prokta, Upajyat, Vyakhyan and Krita. 6 classifications I have already explained. This is the 7th one and this is the bigger one, because this has been explained by Rajashekhar. Rajashekhar is a poet, and this is not so much ancient classification. Rajashekhar is very contemporary, and in his own compendium that is named as Kavya Mimamsa, he has presented this classification and it is much wider in understanding. So, first of all you can see the word Vidya, the term. For whole of the knowledge corpus he uses that word Vidya, and then he classifies it into 2 parts, Para and Apara. One Vidya, one knowledge which is related with the empirical or experience based, for which there is no Shastra, is Para Vidya, and second is Apara, that means for which we are having particular Shastra. So, Para, basically this classification is not a new classification, he is representing it to the current contemporary scholars. So, this classification is coming directly from the Upanishads. In Upanishad we find the reference like Dve Vidye Veditavye Paracha Vaipata Aparacha. Matlab there are 2 types of knowledges which are supposed to be known by each and every scholar, and that is Para and Apara. Para is known as empirical knowledge because it is experience based. You cannot get a written version, or you can say the written versions are not so authentic, because ultimately you are the person who is going to experience that thing. That is why Para is understood as having no Shastras, or it is understood as experience based knowledge or empirical knowledge. Apara can be classified into again 2 parts, Shastra and Kavya. So, again Shastra, he puts Parushe and Aparushe under the category of Shastra, and style of writing, mode of perception, language, plot, structure, dialogue. These are the 6 possible fundamental or basics on the basis of which the classification of the Kavya can be done. So, now he has a particular category about the Apara classification of Vidya. Apara Vidya is having Shastra and Kavya. So, let us discuss each and every heading one by one. First is who is Rajashekhar? Rajashekhar is a poet. And what is Kavya Mimamsa? Kavya Mimamsa is his composition. And in the composition Kavya Mimamsa, Rajashekhar points out that Natya should be considered as the 5th Veda, because till now in the 6 classifications I have already explained the basic 4 ones. So, I am moving ahead, whatever is left behind. जो नहीं बताया है बस वो उसको डिस्कस करेंगे. So, Natya is supposed to be considered as a 5th Veda in the opinion of Rajashekhar. In the same way, he says Itihas should be considered as 5th Upaveda. Then Alankara Shastra, or the sciences of the figures of speech, should be considered as the 7th Vedanga or auxiliary sciences. And why so? What is the logic behind that? I will explain it. So, first of all, go back to the same diagram. You can see Aparushe has Agam, Nigam, Upaveda, Vedanga. So, I have already explained you Agam, what is Agam, then I have told you Nigam, and then Upavedas and Vedangas. These things are being discussed. So, in here you can find the number. In totality we have 92 Agamas. In the same way we have 4 Nigamas, 4 Vedas, Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, popular number. And in the same way we have 4 popular Upavedas also, which will be discussed later on, and Vedangas are 6 in number. I have explained you: Siksha, Vyakaran, Chanda, Kalpa, Nirukta, Jyotisha. So here in this first column itself, Rajashekhar is saying we have to consider +1, that is Natya, Itihas, Alankar Shastra. +1 in where you just go back, this is Nigam, Upaved and Vedanga. So this +1 is the opinion of Rajashekhar. If in the examinations I would ask you what is the fifth Ved in the opinion of Rajashekhar, then you have to write the answer like Natya Ved. Okay? There is a particular reason behind that, what is the logic, why he says so. So Aparushe, now you remember the classification which I have already explained you. Aparushe is what? Which is not related with the particular place, time, person or anything else, right? This is relevant all the time, universal. So once Rajashekhar is saying like we should accept Natya Veda as a fifth Veda, then he mentions that Nat is also not having a single author and it is also not a science which is restricted with the place, person or time. आज भी आप नाटक ड्रामा परफॉर्म करते हैं स्टेज पे, लाइव परफॉर्मेंसेस भी होती हैं. जब ये स्टार्टिंग हुआ था इन द बिगिनिंग, तब भी वो उतना ही रेलेवेंट था. सो देयर इज़ नो क्वेश्चन ऑफ रेलेवेंस बिकॉज इट इज़ नॉट रिलेटेड विद एनी पर्टिकुलर प्लेस, टाइम और पर्सन. कोई कॉपीराइट नहीं है इसका, कोई ऑथर नहीं है इसका कि किसी एक ने इसको बनाया हो और बस उसके साथ ही वो ख़त्म हो गया. That's why Rajashekhar says any kind of knowledge which is not having a restriction or limitations of a particular time, space or person, it should be considered as a Veda itself here, and it should be considered another category of Aparusheya. That's why he is saying that we should consider Natya as a fifth Veda. In the same way, he is saying Itihas should be kept in the Upaveda. Where is Itihas right now? You see, in the opinion of the previous acharyas, whatever is presented in this slide, Itihas is kept under Paurusheya, because in Itihas we find the names of the different rishis and munis in the form of dialogues. For example, if you ever try to get a time to read Shiva Mahapuran, Bhagavad Puran or any of Puran, or you read the Mahabharata and Ramayana also, you will find that the narration which goes on, that is in between the two rishis. किसी ने कुछ पूछा है और फिर उसके रिप्लाई में कोई एक स्टोरी बता रहा है. The style of writing is like that. So in that context, some people say like, because it is consisting of the names of the few persons who are perceiving it, so it should be kept under Parushe. But he says it is just the kind of Prokt literature. Prokt means once I have seen something, or my great grand teachers have seen something, they transmitted the knowledge to me. Now I am telling you again because you asked a question. So in the same way, if you consider that is a Prokt knowledge also, in the beginning it was not Prokt. In the beginning it was Aparushe. So right now maybe the style of conversation or style of dissemination is like in the dialogue style, but the knowledge is not limited with the person or place or the authorship. जिस बात को बता रहे हैं ना, उसका संदर्भ किसी व्यक्ति से संबंधित नहीं है, भले उसको बताने वाले जो लोग हैं वो उनका नाम उस टेक्स्ट में आ रहा है. So that doesn't mean that the knowledge is authored by someone else, authored by some specific people, or it can be restricted to some specific place, person or time. That's why Rajashekhar says that we should consider Itihas also under the category of the Aparusheya Shastra, and we should keep it with the Upavedas. In the same way, Vedanga, we have Siksha, Kalpa, Vyakaran, Chanda, Nirukta, Jyotish, 6 Vedangas. 7th is the Alankar Shastra, figures of speech. In the first lecture I told you, when we try to translate the Vedas or the mantra of the Ved, we misinterpret it. Why? Because we do not understand the figurative speech, metaphoric style of writing of the mantras. When we say like, you are beautiful as moon, so there is a metaphor. इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि तुम मून ही हो, है ना. तो there should be an understanding about the figures of speech, simile, metaphor. These are the figures of speech. These are the decorative items of the language. Just like you decorate yourself, in the same way we decorate the language also. if a language is decorative, then first of all you need to understand that style of decoration. If you don't know that style, you won't be able to understand the meaning of the mantra. For example, in the last course also I explained that in the Upanishad there is a mantra. There are two birds sitting on the same tree. One is witnessing everything and other is consuming the fruits. So अब इस मंत्र को सीधा सीधा समझने के बाद तो आपको लगेगा अरे इसमें क्या है, देयर इज अ स्टोरी ऑफ द टू बर्ड्स, सिंपल, इसमें क्या मिस्ट्री है, what does the Vedas or the mantra of the Upanishad is conveying. But once you understand that no, in the mantras the figures of speech are being used to denote that one bird is representing that pure consciousness and one bird is representing that limited or bound individual. So that becomes a Jivatma and Paramatma. So there you have to link your microcosmic center with the macrocosmic center. That is the target of the higher education, which is dealt with the Upanishads and the Vedas. So this is the this understanding can only be received or understood or actually you can say like felt, experienced if you know figures of speech, in which style it is being written. वो नहीं पढ़ा है तो आप उसको कभी एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर पाओगे, आप उसको कभी डिकोड नहीं कर पाओगे. इन द सेम वे इफ यू गो विद द आगम शास्त्र, इन आगम शास्त्र वी आर हैविंग सो मच कंसाइज मंत्रास लाइक ओम गम गम गणपतये नमः. अब गम क्या है, गणपति नहीं कहा हमने, केवल गम 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 गम. दिस फोनेमिक एनर्जी इज ऑल्सो मेकिंग अ रेजोनेंस and this is sufficient to communicate the deity that it's Ganapati. And now what do you understand by gum? अगर आपको यही नहीं पता कि मंत्र का जो स्टाइल ऑफ राइट कंपोजिशन है वो इतना कंसाइज, इतना कॉम्प्रेस्ड है कि विद इन द सिंगल दिस काइंड ऑफ साउंड गम हैविंग ओनली टू साउंड्स, also the actual explanation of Ganapati is embedded. You cannot decode the mantra. So decoding of the mantras needs a very deep understanding of the figures of speech, and that is why Rajashekhar says we should keep auxiliary science, we should keep this Alankar Shastra under the auxiliary sciences, that is Vedangas. After that Puran are 18 in number, so one by one we would go ahead. Here first there is a name of Anvikshaki, so you can write the notes also. Anvikshaki is the another term used for darshan. So a kind of knowledge which is received by directly seeing something, but it is based on logical exposition, that becomes a darshan or Anvikshaki. So Anvikshaki का मतलब आज का आपका साइंस, इसलिए साइंस का ओरिजिनल ट्रांसलेशन विज्ञान नहीं है, याद रखिएगा. गलतियाँ वहीं हुई हैं जहाँ हमने कॉर्पस को समझे बिना उसका ट्रांसलेशन कर दिया है. सो देयर नाउ गवर्नमेंट इज हैविंग एन ऑथराइज्ड बॉडी ऑफ ट्रांसलेटिंग और स्टैंडर्डाइजिंग द वर्ड्स. एग्जैक्ट मीनिंग क्या है? सो आज जिसे हम साइंस के शब्द से समझ रहे हैं वो इंडियन कॉर्पस का IKS का आन्वीक्षकी है. आन्वीक्षकी सिंगल ब्रांच. Anvikshaki means a kind of investigation, a branch dealing with the investigation of something which is dominant of the logic. And the same Anvikshaki has another synonym, that is darshan. Clear? Then Mimamsa. Mimamsa deals with the interpretation of the text. I have explained you, and it has two parts. One is the Purva Mimamsa, the first chapter, other is the Uttar Mimamsa, the second chapter. Purva Mimamsa means it comes prior, and Uttar means it comes later on. So Purva Mimamsa interprets the utterances and the statements of the Vedas. Uttar Mimamsa is nothing but it is dealing with the consciousness, highest possible consciousness, that is understood with the term Brahm. So the text of the Vedanta Darshan is Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra. So in Purva Mimamsa, first of all, Vedas are being interpreted. Interpreted in what sense? Because the mantras are very concise. It's not in the competency of each and every individual that you start with understanding the mantras. So there is a particular school who made an attempt to interpret the Ved mantras of the Ved first of all, and then after interpreting, on the basis of that interpretation, the mantras are being decoded, and then the Uttar Mimamsa laid down the proper understanding about the pure consciousness or the Brahman. So, Vedanta Darshan is Uttar Mimamsa, and for Vedanta Darshan we are having an authorized text that is named as Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra is the name of the text. Now, come to the classification back. You see what is there? We have classification of Kavya. Kavya has Gadya, Padya mixed. First, that is the style of writing. Here I have explained you Anvikshaki, Mimamsa, Smriti I have already explained, so I have left it. The popular number of Puran and Smriti is 18. Now, moving to the second part, that is Kavya. So, style of writing, first of all, style of writing. As per the style of writing, we can classify this text Gadya, Padya and mixed one. Gadya means prose. If you are writing in a continuation, it becomes a Gadya. If you are writing in a particular meter, having a proper rhythm, it is Padya. And if you are using both of them together, it is mixed. Okay. Then, second classification of the Kavya, mode of perception, Drishya and Shravya. So, Drishya means whatever you are able to see, visualize. So, if you are performing a drama, so it is visible to you, it is Drishya. And Shravya, it is like audible, like a poetry. If you are listening to a kind of commentary on the radio or FM, you are listening to FM, it is Shravya, audible like poetry and story. Third, again go back, third is language based, Sanskrit, Prakrit, Apabhransh. Sanskrit, Prakrit, Apabhransh. Three are the languages. Sanskrit means the standardized one, Prakrit means the natural one, and all the modern Indian languages fall under the category of Apabhransh, because they convey or carry 90 to 95% of the words from the Sanskrit, either in Tatsam as it is, same as the one before, or Tadbhav, modified from the previous one. So, Sanskrit, once you split the word like Sam prefix, Krita, Kri, Ta, Ta pratyay. This is the way how Sanskrit gets formed. Sam means very nicely, Kri means done. So, something which is done very perfectly, that is Sanskrit, the standardized one. That is why in the previous course HS 1317 I explained you that in the till the time of Patanjali there was no classification like of Sanskrit. There is no word like Sanskrit for a particular language. He uses the word Vaidiki and Laukiki when he starts writing Shabdanam Linganushasanam, or when he starts writing Ath Shabdanam Anushasanam. तो वहाँ पे शब्द के बारे में बात तो कर रहे हैं, लेकिन कैसे शब्द वैदिक और लौकिक, संस्कृत, लेकिन ग्रंथ किस में लिख रहे हैं वो संस्कृत में. मतलब संस्कृत भाषा को संस्कृत शब्द से आइडेंटिफाई नहीं किया जाता था जैसा कि हम आज सोचते हैं. संस्कृत का मतलब ही है स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड वन. दैट्स वाई द स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड मीटर इज संस्कृत ऑफ एनी लैंग्वेज. एनी लैंग्वेज, if you are writing a corpus or creating a composition, there should be a standardized vocabulary for that, standardized method of presenting that. That is Sanskrit of any language. Prakrit, the natural one, the way you want to communicate, that is the natural one. So, that becomes Prakrit. And if you go with the modern Indian languages, they all carry the maximum number of words from the same root gross, that is Sanskrit. That is why they are Apabhransh of the Sanskrit. So, we are having the three possible categories of the literature or the corpus in which any of the text can be presented. Next classification is based on Pauranik and Kalpanik, then Kala Ashrit and Shastra Ashrit. So, this is coming from where you can see plot based, Pauranik, Kalpanik, Kala and Shastra. What is that? As per the plot, as per the theme, whatever is being presented in the text. Pauranik means narrative or characters are from the Puranas. Pauranik means related or coming from the Puranas. So, because Puran deal with the longer time, with the history of longer period of time, 71 times the 4 cycle of 71 times cycles of the 4 yugas. So, they are having a lot of characters. इतनी बड़ी हिस्ट्री है कि आपके पास कैरेक्टर्स की कमी ही नहीं पड़ेगी कभी. So, if you are taking any of the character from any of the Puran and then you are creating any corpus or writing any composition, so then it would be like Puranic. And if you are creating any composition which is based on your own imagination, then it becomes a Kalpanik. In the same way, Kala Ashrit and Shastra Ashrit. Kala Ashrit are based on any of the 64 kalas, किसी भी 64 कला पे होंगे. 64 kalas are the 64 allied sciences. In the same way, Shastra Ashrit can be of from any of the Shastra. That means from this classification, this is the Shastra. So, इस पूरे corpus में से कहीं से भी हो सकता है. This is Shastra Ashrit, and if you are using any of the allied sciences like Geetam, Nrityam, Vadyam, Alekhyam, so that becomes a Kala Ashrit, the 64 allied sciences, skill based allied sciences. Next is Mahakavya, Natak, Akhyayika, Katha, Kathanak. You can see this is coming from structure. Mahakavya, Natak, Akhyayika, Katha, Kathanak is a structure in which a kind of composition can be presented. Mahakavya has a popular hero, Lok Prasiddha Nayak, and grand narrative. Natak is acted one, may be very small. Akhyayika is very small narrative, means smaller than the Natak. Katha is a story, very small, very brief, but full of the moral, or you can say full of the message. Kathanak is a dialogue based small narrative. So, this is the explanation based on the possible structure. महाकाव्य सबसे बड़ा होगा स्ट्रक्चर में और कथानक सबसे छोटा होगा. Then dialogue based. Last one is Vaidarbhi, Gaudi, Panchali, Lati. To understand the last one, we need to go with the map of India. At the time of Rajashekhar, once he presented whatever language survey he did, according to that he presented the dialogues, how the dialogues in different languages change. That he named as Riti. So, you can see Riti. Riti means the styles of dialogue. In Sanskrit we say Vachan Vinyas Kramah Riti. वचनों का विन्यास, किसी प्रकार आपके डायलॉग्स, आपके स्टेटमेंट्स किस तरीके से अरेंज किए जाते हैं, उसको हम रीति कहते हैं. सो इट इज़ ऑफ 4 टाइप्स: वैदर्भी, गौड़ी, पांचाली एंड लाटी. वैदर्भी बिलोंग्स टू द southern part, Vaidarbhi to the southern part, then Gaudi belongs to eastern part, Panchali north west and Lati central part. अब इसमें से आप कैसे याद रखेंगे, क्या if you are feeling like you can forget or get confused, सबसे पहले याद रखना है पांचाली. So what who has the name Panchali? द्रौपदी. So पांचाल क्या है? पांचाल राज्य है. पांचाल राज्य का नाम पांचाल क्यों पड़ा था? उसमें कौन सा शब्द है संस्कृत का? पंच, 5. सो लैंड ऑफ 5 रिवर्स. सो ये जो एरिया है नॉर्थ वेस्ट, पांचाल, ठीक है. सो पांचाली कम्स फ्रॉम नॉर्थ वेस्ट, दैट इज पांचाल. क्लियर? एंड अकॉर्डिंगली Vaidarbhi is, you can remember southern part, Vaidarbhi, and then eastern and central. Eastern and central, you can see this is not the India of current time. ये उस समय का भारत है जिस समय राजशेखर ने अपना कंपोजिशन लिखा है. सो ईस्टर्न साइड पे क्या है, कैसे याद रखेंगे आप? ईस्टर्न साइड क्या? गौड़ी. एंड देन सेंट्रल पार्ट Lati. Central part Lati. So you can understand here Lati, this is Panchali, this is Vaidarbhi, this is how the Vachan Vinyas gets different locations. That means the styles of dialogues changes according to the geographical location at the time of Rajashekhar. So this was the classification. Now on the basis of this lecture I would suggest revise you few of the questions for possible questions. For example, if you are being asked like write down the difference between Pauranik and Kalpanik. What is the difference? Pauranik means it is based on the narrative or the characters are coming from the Puranas. Puranas are how many? 18 Puran and 18 Upapuran also. Ashtadash Puran and Ashtadash Upapuran bhi hai. So, from any of the Puran, if you are taking any character or narrative, then it is Pauranik. And if the character or the narration is based on your imagination, that is Kalpanik. Differentiate Sanskrit and Prakrit. Sanskrit means purified or the standardized version, and Prakrit means the natural one. If the child is born and the child cries, that is also language. तो वो प्राकृत है, natural one, जो आपके किसी भी जीव के अंदर से अपने आप प्रस्फुटित होगा. आप that is not dependent on giving a proper training of standardization. ठीक है, that is natural one, that is प्राकृत. And Sanskrit, when it gets standardized or purified in order to represent some kind of a structure. Understood? Third, like explain the difference between Kala Ashrit and Shastra Ashrit. Kala, there are 64 Kala, allied sciences like Geetam, Nityam, Vadyam, Alekyam, etc. So, if some kind of composition is based on any of the 64 allied sciences, that is Kala Ashrita Shastra. ठीक है. Shastra Ashrit. Shastra, how would you define what is the Shastra Ashrit? Shastra Ashrit means, then you have to write what is Shastra. What is Shastra? I explained in the first lecture what is Shastra. Definition of the Shastra is pravrittirva nivrittirva nityena kritakena va punsam yena upadishyante tat shastram abhidhyate. What was the understanding? What was the meaning? Any of the Shastra which deals with the prescription, prohibition or the rules and conducts for daily behavior, that is Shastra. So, if any of the Shastra means any composition is coming from or based on the Shastra aparushe or parushe, that is known as Shastra Ashrit composition. Clear? किसी भी शास्त्र से पहला तो शास्त्र है क्या, वो किसको डील करता है, फिर शास्त्र कितने प्रकार का पॉसिबल है, पौरुषे एंड अपौरुषे, या तो वो कॉन्टेंजेंट होगा और या फिर वो नॉन कॉन्टेंजेंट होगा. दोनों में से किसी से भी अगर आपने कोई थीम पिक की है तो वो कंपोजिशन शास्त्र आश्रित होगा. क्लियर? एम आई अंडरस्टूड? देन what is Riti? Riti is style of dialogue. Vachan vinyas kramaha Riti. Styles of dialogue is known as Riti. Explain the types. 4 types. कौन से? So start with the Panchali, Vaidarbhi, Gaudi, Lati. Panchali is from northwest. Vaidarbhi southern part, Gaudi eastern, northeast or eastern, Lati central part. Clear? Define Mimamsa and its parts. Mimamsa deals with interpretation of the Vedic text. Mimamsa deals with the interpretation of Vedic text. Now its parts, 2 parts. Purva Mimamsa, the first book or the first chapter, and the Uttar Mimamsa, the second book. Purva Mimamsa first book is the original Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa is also known as Vedant. Clear? कहाँ से आ रहा है? From the same slide. Slide को ठीक से पढ़ना है. Purva Mimamsa interprets the utterances and the statements of Vedas, while Uttar Mimamsa deals is Vedant. So another name of Uttar Mimamsa is Vedant. Now suppose you are having fill in the blanks. So first answer, the 5th Ved is Natya Ved. 5th Upaved इतिहास. Don't write history, मैं 0 कर दूंगी. ठीक है? इतिहास. Then 7th Vedang अलंकार शास्त्र और figures of speech. Then science of investigation, dominant of logic, Anvikshaki or Darshan, both are correct. then has a popular hero, lok prasiddh nayak and grand narrative, Mahakavya. Acted one but may be small, नाटक, एक्टिंग जिसमें की जाए वो नाटक है. नाट्य में और नाटक में बहुत डिफरेंस होता है, ठीक है. नाटक इज द एक्टेड वन, मे बी स्मॉल. एंड स्मॉल नैरेटिव, कथा. हाँ, फॉर ए स्मॉल स्टोरी यू नीड टू रिमेंबर पंचतंत्र. पंचतंत्र इज हैविंग कलेक्शन ऑफ स्मॉल स्टोरीज. पंचतंत्र में बहुत सारी कहानियाँ हैं, कथाएँ हैं, ठीक है. सो कथा इज स्मॉल स्टोरी, इज अ स्टोरी. एंड स्मॉल नैरेटिव, आख्यायिका सबसे अलग वर्ड है इसलिए आप भूलते हैं. आख्यायिका इज अ स्मॉल नैरेटिव. लास्ट इज अ डायलॉग बेस्ड स्मॉल नैरेटिव. दोनों में डिफरेंस है. ये एक नरेशन है, डजंट रिक्वायर परफेक्ट कंडीशन ऑफ डायलॉग्स बेस्ड. और लाइक सूत ने कहा या शिव ने बोला, पार्वती ने प्रश्न किया, सो शिव उवाच. और in another way, in the style of dialogue, this is the one way of style of creating the composition. Somebody is asking something, somebody is replying, so that is a dialogue based, a small narrative, that is kathanak. And once you are narrating something, not necessarily you involve the two people who are discussing something, or there should be a style of asking a question or replying to the question. That becomes akhyayika. Okay, the word is, go to the word, see, this is आख्यायिका. ठीक है. आख्यायिका in Devanagari, how to be written? आख्यायिका. ठीक है, आख्यायिका. Okay, so for this lecture this is sufficient. Thank you.